Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 11, Breaking Bad. This was written and directed by Thomas Schnauz, who's done amazing episodes of the show, and that got me really hyped. What also got really hyped for this episode, like always, Peter Gould likes to tweet out some exciting tweets to get you pumped for this episode. He was saying this one was going to be, crazy like they always say, and that you're not prepared for it and avoid spoilers, but I did not feel like that was that type of episode that was just aired at all. I have said in my previous reviews how this show really pads things a lot. And what's frustrating about this episode now is that this is the second episode in the final four episodes, literally back to back, where we're still watching this crutch the show falls into of just prolonging these schemes and showing every little detail, and it really is getting just to the point where I'm so impatient watching it now because you feel like there should just be more done here, and it really feels like this 13 episode order is really showing here that maybe this is more of the studio pushing this and that they had to fill a lot of time here, because I feel like this show ended in episode 9 when Kim left, and we saw at the end of Lalo's story, Gus's story, all in the Better Call Saul show we know, and this just kind of feels like bonus time at this point, and it is falling under the fan service trap a little too much, where for some reason they told everybody Jesse and Walt were coming back, so that took away maybe the more excitement we'd have seeing them here, but it just feels like what you kind of would have imagined they would have done with the cameo with those two, where it fills into a very noticeable scene with Saul talking about Lalo, and we just kind of filled in a gap like watching a deleted scene for Breaking Bad. So that was super disappointing, and I think there was things about this episode that were good though, and it was better than last week, which is probably the highest compliment I can give it, but I did think there was visual things here that were brilliant. I love that, obviously, that moment with Saul laying on his bed as Gene, but it's lined up with the grave dug in the ground in the Breaking Bad timeline. I thought that was a standout moment of the episode. And also, the more interesting stuff, which is we only got a little bit of, is knowing that Kim was asking about Saul and that Kim's even alive and that she's in Florida. So that clearly just reveals that it's going to definitely end with him and Kim reuniting this show. But I feel like I'm watching a separate show at this point. And when Mike appeared, I was just happy to see Mike because he is someone in Better Call Saul. And I just kind of miss our main crew here of Lalo, Kim, and it makes you just look back at the season and all my frustrations and worries that I said earlier about how they dragged along the Howard scheming. Now they're dragging along the black and white storyline with Jeff, which I also do not think is the tightest writing, because we just spent a whole episode to the point where Jimmy says to Jeff, like, don't come near me again or I'm going to rat you out. And then, it's one of those situations where that was going to probably be the end of Jeff, but they just reversed it immediately when he realized he needed Jeff. So it's almost like everything that even built up that was going to be really suspenseful in the black and white timeline throughout the show, and we saw little flashes, was just killed, and they just changed Jeff completely in the use of him. So I thought that was kind of ridiculous too, and just seeing the big moment of this episode was how much of a monster Gene is now, even compared to Saul from Breaking Bad. And that was a little more effective to me, especially the connection with the Walter White and cancer, and then him actually going through with having this man who has cancer going through the con and firing someone who's not for that. But we see that Saul during Breaking Bad was someone who even thought of someone like Walter White. Just there's some good in him, seeing that he had cancer and actually wanted to work with him. But I don't know if that was worth it, again, for a whole episode. And you know what a bad sign is, too, is when you even watched it previously on for this episode from last week, there's two things they have to show you, because that's literally all that happened last week. And I feel like, again, here, you get certain little reveals, then you're going to get a lot of scheming, and then a little reveal about character. And nothing is really engaging you. Nothing's gripping you. And I think they just are literally showing that they didn't really have a great idea of how they're going to keep this story going, and that there's a pressure to connect it to Breaking Bad, and it's hurting them, where, again, maybe that's why it feels abrupt, the ending with episode 9 with Kim, and then why they spend so much time with the Howard scheming. I still don't know. I don't think it's worth any of these payoffs, because I think you could still do these payoffs without having so much padding. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, because I've said this almost in all the reviews of episodes this season I didn't like. And to me, this season then, just from this episode, is criminally disappointing. I don't even, I know next week titled Waterworks, so I think it's got to do with Kim because we have the sprinkler company that she's at, but we got Vince Gilligan directing and writing it. Vince is amazing. I'm sure it's going to be great, but it's not going to change the fact that there's been so many disappointing episodes this season, and it just feels completely off to me now, and I'm very, very disappointed. So I think that I had patience with last week, but then to continue on and kind of run off of last week and still feel kind of stuck in the mud here is really frustrating. And I think that you're still going to have people that are going to comment and say, just be patient, Steve, or this is a masterpiece, you're not seeing it, or you're an idiot. That's fine, but I know what I'm watching, and it's not sucking me in. It's not making me want to know what's going to happen next at all. Like, really, just it's almost too predictable now too, believe it or not, because you see in the little preview the cops are coming, and we're also supposed to believe how stupid Saul and Jean's being by going through with this. And I know he wants to get back to Kim in some way, but it's like, yeah, it's going to be a tragic ending for him here, and that he's broken bad in his sense. And then in that sense, where they're going with the Breaking Bad angle of Jean, it's like also repeating that theme from Breaking Bad 2, which also feels a little disappointing. I don't know if this all touches base with the show we've watched for so long with Better Call Saul, so it feels like it's copping out to having the pressure of being into the timeline of Breaking Bad. So I am going to give this episode, though, a 7.2 because, again, I really like the moment where they showed him visually in the grave, but also the moment cutting beautifully between Saul walking into the science classroom with Walt and him breaking into the house of the man with cancer. Otherwise, again, interesting stuff with even just hearing Kim's name, but the rest, you can literally take the whole scheming in the bar. You can take the scheming from last week in the department store. Try watching that with nothing else, and you're just watching paint dry. So you can't just let a show keep getting away with that. And it's just so just repetitive at this point with stuff. So let me know, though, what you thought of the episode. I'd love to hear it. I respond as many comments as I can. I appreciate all your thoughts, but please keep it civil. And please make sure to follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.